Concerns lingered about the project's impact on area businesses, especially those located on property acquired for the new courthouse. Downtown retail vacancies remained a problem, and worries grew about the physical separation between the federal enclave and adjoining commercial area. Working with the community, Utah Heritage, and the city, GSA devised a solution to promote pedestrian traffic in the city's significant but little used historic retail district. Most businesses were moved to Main Street, in the heart of downtown, filling vacancies and reestablishing these businesses in a prominent place. After stabilizing the relocated building, GSA will sell the Oddfellows Hall at auction, with Utah Heritage retaining a preservation easement on the historic facade. Under the easement, the new owner will be required to maintain the facade, but will have flexibility to renovate and reconfigure the interior.
Once the building has been relocated to the new site, GSA will be disposing of the building through an auction process. So far we've had quite a bit of interest from business people in the community that are interested in the building, and we're confident that the building will sell and it will become a viable part of the community.
The mitigation, which is part of this 106 process, which gives something back to the community, I think the process has been well worth that in terms of Oddfellows once again being part of the urban streetscape. It was fully occupied and functional before this process started, and that's our hope that in the future it will once again be doing that.
GSA hired contractor Layton Construction to move the Oddfellows building. Layton hired subcontractor Emmert International, a company that specializes in heavy haul transportation and rigging services, including building relocation to assist with the move. The construction team's first task was to analyze and prepare the building for relocation.
It's all about the preparation. The time is in the preparation for getting the building ready to move, stabilizing it, preparing the travel path, and then once all that work is done, the rolling actually doesn't take that much time.
Our role has been the preparation of the building to be moved, and that preparation involved documenting the building, photographically documenting the building, drafting the building, measuring and drafting the building, determining how the building could be moved and where it might be moved. There were many, many sites looked at before we were able to zero in on the site across the street. Finally doing the drawings, documenting the building, and doing the drawings for the construction project across the street, the footing and foundation for the building, the site work, etc.
Construction crews bricked in the building's windows and other openings to reinforce the structure before the building could be lifted off its foundation and moved.
Before taking on the move, some additional shoring or some supports needed to take place with the building other than the steel grillage and the dollies in order to move it, the temporary foundation. One of the biggest things was to remove all of the windows to eliminate any voids, and then once the building is on its new foundation, the windows will be placed back in.
Preparation proved more challenging than anticipated. The brick walls had shifted over the years and the weight exceeded original estimates. Masons repointed the facade and grouted the voids. Construction crews further reinforced the exterior walls with strategically placed steel collar ties. The path was also critical. Adjusting the dollies during the move due to uneven loading would be time-consuming and difficult. Excessive settling could cause the building to fall. Areas of insufficient subsurface support were excavated, filled, compacted, and covered with steel plates to stabilize the travel path.
Well, we've moved hundreds of buildings over a period of time. I would have been with them now 35 years plus, and this here is probably one of the more labor-intense jobs, and it's a little bit more involved in it because of the condition of the building. We had a hard time getting enough dollies under it in order to make it work. And we had to build cribs or jacks into the steel beams themselves to jack it from, and then we had to space it out properly in order to get the dollies in there, in order to do the transportation part.
As an additional measure to protect the Oddfellows Hall and nearby historic buildings, GSA recruited preservation engineer Robert Silman and renowned Dutch engineer Rudy van Leeuwen a specialist in building relocation and geotechnical engineering. Silman's team suggested adjustments to the transportation route and structure and determined the building and relocation plan sound. By summer of 2009, the 48-foot tall, 2,500-ton Oddfellows Hall was finally ready to move. The relocation required transferring the building to a temporary steel frame foundation, then undertaking a series of moves to get it onto its new concrete foundation. Before the building could be transported across Market Street, it would need to be moved west off its foundation and spun 180 degrees to face south for its new location across the street. Parking lots adjacent to the historic building and its new site allowed GSA's construction team to excavate the original foundation and build a new foundation during the move. These open spaces in the streetscape were vital to moving and spinning the building.
The building was raised 11 feet up in the air. At that point, then, the dollies were placed underneath it. 55 dollies, 11 rows of 5 dollies were placed underneath the building to roll on. And each dolly has 8 pneumatic tires. And so we've got 440 tires underneath that.
The moves had to be lineal, no diagonals and no unusual angles, in accord with the way the dollies supporting the building were designed to move. At long last, the Oddfellows Hall was successfully rolled to the west, rotated, and moved north across Market Street to its new location. Fascinated viewers worldwide watched the extraordinary move on YouTube.
They transposed all the dimensions to the other side, so what we built, we could pre-build ahead of time and it would fit. And then they closed off Market Street, filled it full of dirt, rolled it in, put steel plate across that, and we rolled it to the north. We went all the way to the north, stopped, then we turned the wheels again, 90 degrees, and we set up and we pulled it to the east, and we rolled it over to the east. And when we landed over there, believe it or not, we got it within a half an inch exactly where it had to be, which is incredible considering the weight we're having to pull.
We have been involved with the movement of some buildings. It's not typical. I mean, it's not something we do every day. This one was wonderful, one, because it's such an important building, and the sites that they were looking at to move the building were across the street, but that was important to us because it left it in its historic context in that non-Mormon financial historic area of the building.
The Oddfellows Hall is now secure on its new foundation, windows reinstalled and the facade repaired. The National Register listing will be updated to reflect its new address, and property will be available for sale with a facade easement held by the Utah Heritage Foundation. Construction of the courthouse expansion begins in 2010. Upon completion of the new courthouse, the historic Moss Courthouse will be vacated, rehabilitated, and readied for use by the courts.
I believe it was worth it to move the Oddsfellow building. Again, I believe that it is a beautiful building with considerable historical significance. I believe it reflects the fact that the federal government understands that it must, on occasion, invest in the interests of a community such as Salt Lake City. GSA has certainly invested in this project by putting the money forward, sticking with the project even though there were difficulties, and seeing that it was successfully moved and will remain a viable landmark in the downtown Salt Lake City community.
What does the future hold for the Oddfellows Hall?
The building has value. It's located in a great part of town. Previously there was a restaurant in the building and law offices, and certainly once it's relocated, that type of use would be appropriate for it again, and it will become hopefully a viable part of the Salt Lake City community and have thriving businesses operating out of it.
As other buildings are right in this vicinity, it really becomes a part of a very active, vibrant downtown. And to me that means in all likelihood some retail space, some restaurant or activity space. It's got very high ceilings on that first floor. And then it can serve as offices, or if it's better suited for residential, it'll be wonderful residential structure in the heart of our downtown.
GSA is proud to meet the court's needs while reinvesting in downtown Salt Lake City.
I'm really very pleased. Again, I think that the final placement, the upcoming successful completion of this project, it ought to be a source of pride to GSA as well as those